Thanks, Danny.
Thanks, Dan.
We're here today with Chris Neville of Tributosaurus and also, in a more general way, of Oak Park. If you could just start off by just talking about even before Tributosaurus, before Oak Park even necessarily, and just your earliest memories of music.
I started playing when I was about 3 years old. My grandma used to have an old player piano down in the basement, and I used to love to go down there and play. And eventually, I asked my parents if I could get some lessons. They said yeah. I've always loved music. I love to play. I love to sing. I love to listen. You know, it's been a driving force in my life. So that was.
So as you're growing up, what competed with music in terms of a career path? Did anything at all step in between, or?
Well, I mean, I wanted to be a veterinarian for a long time when I was a kid, because I love animals and wanted to do that. But it's a lot of work.
And music's not?
Music is a lot of work too, but it's a different kind of work. And you don't have to get up quite so early in the morning.
So now, in your life, you could draw the line of BT and AT, right? Before Tributosaurus.
Okay.
And so I just want to hear a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, I went down to University of Illinois in Champaign for college. Played in a lot of bands there. I was in a band called Modern Humans with Kurt Morrison, another Oak Park resident and member of Tributosaurus. And we started playing together then. I developed a lot of my musical identity, I think, then. When I got back from college, my first sort of full-time music gig was with Dion Payton and the 43rd Street Blues Band down at Kingston Mines. And we would do 5 nights a week down there, 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., and then 1 night a week at the checkerboard. So 6 days a week playing blues gigs, which was really great, really instructive. Got to play with a lot of great musicians who came through there. Keith Richards, Mick Jagger. Andrew Lloyd Webber came in while he was working on a thing, and Axl Rose and Slash were in there. Got to play with also a lot of great blues legends, obviously, Sugar Blue, Carlos Johnson, Son Seals, Buddy Guy, all those guys. And I still think of that as a big part of my development as a player, too.
Tell me about the roots of Tributosaurus.
Sure.
First of all, just on a very superficial level, the name itself.
That was Matt Spiegel's brainchild, playing a gig at the Lion's Den, which used to be on Irving Park, with a band called Sonic Voodoo that Matt used to run. He was talking about a thing in New York called the Losers Lounge, where they would do different, I think it's musical theater tribute stuff. And he was talking about he thought it would be great if there was a band that would do that with it. What if you did that with the bands? You know, you could every month or so do a different tribute. He was just kind of throwing it out there as, wouldn't that be cool? And of course, Kurt and I were there and said, yeah, we can do that. Well, let's try it. Let's see what happens.
Right.
We started off with The Who at Martyrs, and we really got into the idea of let's try and recreate the actual recordings. What we were trying to do was much more along the lines of what an orchestra does as opposed to what a cover band does. So we're not trying to give you our interpretation of this so much as trying to recreate what the composer or the band had in mind.
Right. So it started with The Who.
Yeah.
And then who's next?
It was.
If you appreciate the pun.
I do appreciate
Thank
the pun. It was The Who, and then I think our second was Sly and the Family Stone. Then Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young was our third. Police was our fourth. I don't remember who our fifth was. And then our sixth was Traffic.
Okay.
So
excellent.
Yeah.
So they stand out, and so you've run, well, maybe not the gamut, but certainly a wide range. So talk about that. How important is that to you and to other members of Tributosaurus to have a variety that you offer up?
I mean, it's very important. I think it keeps us fresh and keeps our crowd churning. I mean, we have a pretty solid and loyal fan base that likes to come see us do what we do. I appreciate that a lot, but it's important that we continue to get new people in. And some of that is based on what band you do. And part of the joy of that project is when people come up, and this happens every show without fail, someone will come up to me and say, well, we just did Bob Dylan at the Fitzgerald's Music Fest. And, afterwards I'll get somebody come and say, I never was a big fan of Bob Dylan, but God, that one tune was amazing. Or ELO, I thought it was a joke, and I came and saw him, it blew my mind. I couldn't believe how great it was. In a lot of ways, the Beatles were one of the biggest challenges because early on we realized we could never pick a Beatles set that was going to be satisfying for any Beatles fan or any of us. We're all Beatles fans. And So we decided we were going to do everything they ever recorded from start to finish. Took us about 5 years.
Did you go on a rooftop at any point?
We talked about it. We talked about it.
Because that was one of their sets,
Yes,
right?
we couldn't find the right roof. Obviously, the early Beatles stuff is a different kind of raw energy, more straight up rock music. And we got up into the later period, and we got to Sgt. Pepper's. We needed a 40-piece orchestra for that, and had to work out some big arrangements, and it was very exciting, you know.
The Beatles, some of the luminaries, and also there's the one-hit wonders.
Yes.
So share a few of the one-hit wonder stories.
We did one-hit wonders of the 70s and one-hit wonders of the 80s. And some of those songs are great, and some of them are not great, but they feel great because they're such a part of your life, you know. You brought up to me earlier the Safety Dance by Men Without Hats, which when we initially talked about doing the 80s was immediately in my mind. It was one of the first ones I thought, oh yeah, Safety Dance would be awesome. And I listened to the song, and it's unlistenable. After about 30 seconds, the joke's over, and you can't. So that one didn't make the cut.
Give a sense of the process, because I know that you don't just show up to do your gig. There's
Right.
a lot that goes into it.
Well, I guess first we pick our songs. There's 5 core members of the band. We all pick 3 or 4 tunes, no vetoes. So when somebody picks a song you hate, too bad, you're playing it. And sometimes you have a unique challenge where you got to find an alpenhorn player or something like that, and we don't know one, you got to find one. Typically we'll go through, start working on the arrangements. Kurt and I do a lot of interplay, just figuring out, okay, sometimes you can't tell. Is that a guitar or is that a keyboard? What's happening in there, you know? And everybody has to kind of take care of their own business. We have one rehearsal, which is 2 nights before the show. And usually everybody's pretty good about being ready. You do have we call it the day of reflection on Tuesday, which often is about tightening up stuff, or I didn't know that as well as I could, or I forgot this sound, whatever, you know. But usually we're pretty tight on the rehearsal.
So it's been 13 years.
Yeah.
It's a teenager now.
It's starting to be a problem.
This Jurassic beast known as Tributosaurus. So now, is there a talk at any point of how long, or is this month to month?
I mean, to me, it's kind of a fabric of my existence. Tributosaurus is the constant in my life. You know, as long as we love doing it, we'll do it.
And now you've got a venue that you know you can book anytime.
That's true.
Can we talk about that a little bit, about Wire?
Yeah.
Right along the Oak Park-Berwyn border there.
I had been thinking about that for a long time as sort of a home base and a legacy project, something that, you know, I wanted to put something together that would kind of give back to the musical community and maybe create some new opportunities there. And the original plan calls for the venue, which is up and running and doing well, and the school, which is up and running and continuing to ramp up. And then a record label, which we're going to launch in the fall. But the idea is that whatever your point A is, we can help you get to point B.
So what for you? What have been some of the biggest lessons you've learned through this process with Wire?
I learn lessons every day with Wire. Just running a club has changed my perspective from being the musician who is always suspecting the club owner is ripping you off to the club owner who now realizes the musicians don't always have a clear picture of what it takes to put a show up, and so I have a lot more respect for people who are on the other end now.
Understood, yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure you get this a lot, before gigs, after gigs, just in life. Sure. Advice for anyone, whether they're young, whether they're not so young, and they have a passion for music and pursuing that as a profession.
The main thing is, if you love it, continue to work at it. But it's work, it's hard work. And that's the main thing, is you have to continue to develop, continue to grow. There's no point at which you can say, okay, I'm good enough to do everything now. That never happens. I mean, I learn every day. Everybody I know who's a professional musician, that's part of the deal. But I would say, you know, try and get out there and work with as many people as you can. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to fail, because it's going to happen. You know, you got to challenge yourself. You got to go out there and, you know, you can't always be the best guy in the band and learn anything. Sometimes you have to be the worst guy in the band. Right. You don't have to be a rock star to make a living. You can make a nice living as a player, a producer, you know, an impresario, any kind of. There's a lot of different ways to be involved in music. That's what we built Wire for, is to teach people that. So.
Excellent, excellent. Well, a good way to wrap up. Chris, thank you for taking the time. This
my pleasure.
Looking forward to learning more and to seeing you more.
Absolutely.
You perform, and best of luck with Wire and everything else.
Thanks. See you soon.